Good afternoon and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 205 and I'm continuing the story of the two Viziers from 1001 Arabian Nights. We left the story off with Shams al-Din, Sit al-Haran, his daughter, and the wife of his brother Nur al-Din, all having traveled from Basra to Damascus. Now in Basra, Shams al-Din, remember, had gone to the king there and inquired about his brother. His king had let him know that his brother's wife was still alive, but there was no word or sign of his son. The king let him know that his son had disappeared after a month of mourning for his father. Shams al-Din had had very little problem convincing Nur al-Din's wife to come with them, and she was elated to believe that there was some hope that her son was still alive. Now, when they got to Damascus, they pitched their tents in the same place as they had before, the plain of pebbles. After all was set up, after a night's rest, in the morning, breakfast had been served and all was well. And Ajib, son of Badr al-Din, grandson of Nur al-Din, son of Sit al-Haran, grandson of Shams al-Din, had a longing to go see the cook again. The stirrings of the heart provoked him to ask his, servant, perhaps a slave we could call him, to accompany him to the cook shop. His protector, his servant, agreed, and off they went through the streets of Damascus, people bustling here to there in their daily activities, the sun beating its way across the streets, the shadows casting their glow from the sun's angle. It was a hot day. They traveled as much as they could in the shade. Eventually, they wended their way to the cook shop. There, Ajib looked upon Badr al-Din. He saw plainly the scar from brow to brow that he had left upon his father's forehead. When Badr al-Din felt that look upon him, he turned his gaze toward Ajib, and when he saw him, his heart fluttered. Love was stirred. He walked over to Ajib and his slave and stood there tongue-tied. He could not say a word. He was so moved emotionally. Ajib looked upon the cook and said to him, "Fare thee well. I am sorry for the blow I cast upon you, the rock that I threw that caused that scar upon your forehead. I am fond of you, but you must know that you cannot follow me. We've come here today. We'd like to eat at your cook shop, but you must promise not to follow us." Badr al-Din was still tongue-tied. He couldn't say a word. Eventually, he found the ability to recite some verse about love and how can render man speechless. But then he found his voice and he said, certainly, I'm sorry. I apologize for my infraction and I will not follow you again. Please come and let me serve you. So Ajib and the slave, they came into the shop and sat down at the table. And Badr al-Din went into his cook shop, for he just made an incredibly beautiful, sweet batch of pomegranate seed and honey and almonds and cardamom, cinnamon, vanilla bean. He ladled out 2 bowls and set them before Ajib and his servant. But Ajib would not eat and said, you must sit with us. You must eat with us. So Badr al-Din returned, ladling up a bowl. For himself, he sat down, and he joined Ajib and his servant. They talked. It was sweet, for the feeling was dear. The feeling was of love, pure love. And neither Ajib nor Badr al-Din could deny its existence, nor could the servant, the protector, the slave, who was witnessing all of this. He could not deny what was going on. They ate their fill. Sometimes Badr al-Din would spoon mouthfuls of this delicious, what we would call a dessert, into the mouths of both the servant and Ajib. They delighted in the attention they received, the sweetness, the love of Badr al-Din. And then, when it was time to bid adieu, Badr al-Din could only express how his heart would go with them. But he resigned himself to stay in the cookshop and tend to his own business. Ajib and the servant wended their way through the streets of Damascus, the sun casting longer shadows now than it had before, and returned slowly. Ajib, he was not that motivated to go back. He felt his heart pulled back toward Badr al-Din, but onward he went. Eventually they got back to the tent city, and when they did, Ajib's grandmother, Badr al-Din's mother, sat them down and placed before them bowls full of cooked pomegranate seed with almonds and honey, cardamom, cinnamon, vanilla bean. The servant, the protector, and Ajib were full. They had eaten more than they probably should have. Ajib took a bite of this food that his grandmother had prepared, and he said, I cannot eat this. I'll stop the story there. As for Scheherazade, morning had come, and the story had to end for that day. Thanks for joining. Hope you enjoyed, and return tomorrow for the story continuing.